Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Intrepid English podcast. I'm Lorraine, and today I will be chatting to the newest member of the Intrepid English family, Maddox. He talks about his experience of studying in Japan, his travels and his hobbies, and also gives some really good advice for English learners. You may notice a slightly different accent to normal, as Maddox is from Pennsylvania in the States. I really hope you enjoy today's conversation. Hi Maddox, thanks for joining us today.
Hi Lorraine, it's great to be here.
Maybe you could start by introducing yourself to the listeners.
So my name is Maddox, I'm 19 years old, and I live in the suburbs of Philadelphia, which is on the east coast of the United States.
Some of the listeners might be a little bit surprised to hear that at 19 years old, you're working as an English teacher for us. What brought you into this industry exactly?
Yeah, you're right. I'm definitely one of the younger members of our team. But I got started with teaching English as kind of a peer tutor. So I did that at my high school and an international school that I attended in Japan. And in both of those environments, I could kind of see that, my friends and other students were struggling with maybe writing assignments or were nervous about college application essays, that kind of thing. So I kind of started out helping them and proofreading for them, giving them feedback. And at the school in Japan, which was an international school, I also did a bit more work of teaching English as a second language, helping students with their vocabulary, grammar, that kind of thing, mostly in the context of academic English and assignments that they were going to, turn into a teacher.
Okay, great. So you mentioned you went to high school in Japan. I actually really want to hear a little bit more about that high school because I met you through a friend of mine who went to a similar high school in a different country. So this high school is called United World Colleges, and I'm fascinated by it. It sounds like a wonderful place to go to school. Can you tell us a little bit about what makes UWC so unique?
Yeah, absolutely. So UWC is basically an association of 2-year high schools around the world. There are probably 12 or 13 schools, something like that. There's also new ones joining all the time. But they're, in the US, Japan, Italy, Swaziland, Norway, a whole range of countries. And what unites these schools is the UWC mission, which is to make education a force to unite peoples and cultures for a more sustainable future. And so if you attend one of those schools, you will do the International Baccalaureate Diploma Program. Probably a lot of our listeners have heard of that before. It's just kind of a standard international high school curriculum. But along with that, they encourage you to be doing extracurriculars and interacting with your peers, which are also from all around the world. Students are constantly running activities and talking to each other about global issues and things that are important to them and sharing their experiences so that in addition to that high school education, you can learn more about the world around you and problem solving and how to use that space and that education to make the world a better place in some way. So the school in Japan is one of the newest. ISAK is the name of the school. And it's in Karuizawa, which is a sort of resort mountain town. But it was a really incredible experience.
Wonderful. I love hearing about these kinds of schools. It sounds to me a little bit like a school for superheroes. I've met a few people who went to these schools and they generally are super inspiring. I wish I'd have gone to a school like that. It sounds great.
It's definitely a really great opportunity. And if any of our listeners are interested, I would definitely encourage them to look into UWC in their countries, because most countries have a committee that kind of represents their country that you can apply to, and then they will place you, or you can choose which school you go to if you're selected. So it's a really great opportunity.
So we've already heard about your travels to Japan for school, and you've also got quite a few different experiences of travelling, haven't you?
Yeah, I also had other opportunities to travel through a different program with an acronym called CISV, which has a similar set of values as UWC, but instead of it being a school environment, which is more long-term, they do summer programs. So you're not studying, you're just spending time with people and, doing all of that kind of social learning about the world and different cultures. And so through that program, I was able to go to Santiago in Spain, and I also went to Östersund in Sweden. Both of those were for relatively short trips of just a few weeks.
I'm impressed by your local pronunciation of the place names.
I try. I mentioned in my biography that I've studied a lot of languages, and I am somewhat, embarrassed to say that none of them come close to my English skills, but I really enjoyed learning languages. And yeah, when I was in those places, I tried to study up a little bit.
Great. We all tend to anglicize place names, don't we? We have an English version of every place name. So yeah, especially if you visited, it's really quite a nice gesture to learn how to pronounce the name of the place in a local accent.
Yeah, right. I think so.
And languages aren't your only passion. You play the marimba, so that's quite interesting. Do you want to tell the listeners what the marimba is?
Yeah, so the marimba is a percussion instrument. Percussion just means basically anything that you hit. So drums, cymbals, triangle, xylophone, marimba, lots of instruments. And so if you know what a xylophone is, the marimba is very similar. It's a very large instrument with sort of wooden blocks that are arranged sort of like a keyboard, and you hit it with sticks, and it's a lot of fun. I've been playing percussion instruments in general for 8, 9, 10 years, something like that, since I was little. Yeah, and so I have experience with different drums, different marimbas and xylophones and the triangle, fun stuff like that. Yeah.
I've experience of tambourine, and that's it.
Right. Well, that's important. That can really hold together an ensemble. So respect.
So not only do you teach English, but you also learn several languages. Do you find that your experience of learning languages informs how you teach English language?
That's a really great question. I definitely think that even if I'm not a fluent speaker of any language other than English, even having basic understanding of another language definitely changes how I approach teaching English to students who speak that language, and really how I understand English in general, because it gives me a new perspective on English. I can compare this grammar structure that I would never question because it's the language that I've spoken my whole life. I'm aware that it doesn't exist in this other language, and so if I'm teaching a concept, I might say, unlike German, we don't really draw attention to dative case in English, so you won't have to change articles for that, or something like that, that if you are only aware of one language, and that's the language that you're teaching, you wouldn't really have access to that comparison.
And also, I feel it makes you quite empathetic to the struggles sometimes that students go through when they're learning a language.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know about you, but some things I've really picked up easily in my second language, and other things have just taken a long time and can get a little bit frustrating when you've learned it already, but you can't quite remember what the rules are or what the word is. Yeah, it really helps to have a teacher who is understanding of that frustration, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I've definitely been there in a variety of language classes, so I won't judge anyone for that, certainly.
So you love teaching English, and
yes,
that comes across very, very well in your lessons. What's your favorite thing about teaching English?
Oh, that's a great question. There's a lot of things that I love about teaching English, but I think my favorite thing...
I hope you've enjoyed this sample of the Intrepid English podcast. You can listen to the rest of this interview and read the accompanying blog post at intrepidenglish.co.uk. Alternatively, you can subscribe to the Intrepid English podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, or any of the major podcast services. Thank you for listening, and from everyone at Intrepid English, have a wonderful day.